Testing. Let's see. See if this works. See if this works. Alright, looks like it's working, which is cool. Let's see. Testing. All right, Raise on Popcorn's Grant, what's up? Hey man, how you doing? I started this live stream late because I was just getting done watching Boogie Nights as well as still figuring out how to use StreamYard in terms of live streams. So usually I just use YouTube live stream. So hopefully this is same kind of experience or better. Well, it's officially Father's Day, so hopefully everyone's got good plans. Should be a good day. I'll be curious to see who's up right now. They're just getting everything set up. I know usually it takes several minutes for someone to get involved. Can't articulate what is up, Chad. Hey man, how you doing? I just recently saw you watched what was it on Letterboxd? I saw you. There's something having a brain fog right now. What was it? One second. I saw the TV glow, and I agreed with you. I thought that was pretty funny with what you said. Oldest ninth grader ever. And honestly, I was on the same wavelength as you with that movie. It wasn't until one of my friends gave his interpretation. I was like, okay, I can see that point of view, but still thought the movie was just okay. But definitely respect it for its originality because there definitely isn't a movie like that. But the discussion on nostalgia, I thought was really interesting, honestly. Yeah, the movie's okay. I liked the aesthetic. Yes, I agree. I liked the aesthetic better than the director's previous work. I thought their previous work was interesting in concept, but in terms of the actual execution, I thought it was very disappointing. This one was much better, I thought personally. So they're definitely a director that I'll be on the lookout for whatever it is that they do. But the audience I saw it with really wasn't vibing with the movie, and it was a Thursday crowd, so I was really surprised that the crowd wasn't vibing with it. But I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a second chance down the line. I find that to be the case with a lot of A24 films, where I think it's okay the first time, and then I rewatch, I end up loving it more. I know First Reformed, I had a similar situation where I watched it in theaters. I thought it was close to good, and then I just couldn't get out of my head, and so I watched it multiple times, and now it's one of my favorite films of all time. So it happens, especially with that studio. But do you plan to watch any other movies today? I already know I'm planning to watch the Ultimate Father's Day movie later on today, which I'm excited about. I just realized this is pretty cool. This is what's nice. Sorry, I'm literally in real time. I'm learning how to use StreamYard. Just realized I can show your comment. Can't articulate. I think I'm gonna watch Edge of Tomorrow. Tomorrow, I put it off for 10 years. LOL. Um, it's funny because ironically, I think it was exactly 10 years. No, not exactly, but I think it was the first week of June of 2014 was when I saw Edge of Tomorrow, and I haven't seen it since. Good film. I actually have a review on it on my Facebook channel. I thought it was good. I don't know. I just haven't had the urge to rewatch it, but I think you'll like it. It's definitely a good film, but not my favorite. Which is funny because I remember when that movie came out, it was like there were so many people who are like, "Dude, it's one of the best movies like ever," and I'm like, "It's good, it's good." But that's just because some people just like making comparisons to like other movies, and it's just like not really like some people are like, "Oh, it was like Saving Private Ryan." And I was like, "Not really." Like Saving Private Ryan's like a gory R-rated film, and Edge of Tomorrow is like a bloodless PG-13 film. So it's like I don't think it's apples and apples. But I think you'll, like I said, I think you'll enjoy it. It's definitely a fun film for sure, and it's interesting to see Tom Cruise in like a different kind of role. This is cool though. Sorry, I'm still very impressed with StreamYard how it's like I can actually click on the comment, have it come up here, so then that way other people can see it, and then makes it more interactive. That's awesome. I know I feel like a boomer with technology with this kind of stuff. Yeah, later on I'm probably gonna watch Eraserhead, the ultimate Father's Day film. I love that film. David Lynch, man. Also, the StreamYard, I feel like the 720p quality is a lot better than the 720p of YouTube. I'm gonna have to start using this more. Shout out to my YouTube friend Anthony A. Perez. He's the one that told me about StreamYard and how it's actually very friendly, user friendly, and that you don't need to actually like buy anything for it. That it's actually free. The 4K version that is like extra, so I figured I would start off with the free version. And then if I like it more, then I'll upgrade to the 4K version. Can't articulate. I wasn't a fan of Eraserhead. I think I'm going to rewatch it sometime again when I do my David Lynch run. That's fair. I know several people actually that weren't a fan of like David Lynch's Eraserhead the first time. It's a very, it's a very very weird film. No question about it. I still remember the first time I saw it. Um, I thought it was good, but I had no clue what I had just experienced. Now that I've seen it multiple times, I have a better grasp on it, but at the same time, we'll never fully understand it. It's more of a film that you watch and you just admire the filmmaking at hand, but it's not really a film necessarily that you'll fully ever understand. But such is life, and I also think that as someone that lives in Pennsylvania, it's really cool to see Philadelphia depicted in a non-traditional way. Also, the black and white cinematography of Eraserhead is immaculate, especially the Criterion Blu-ray, which it's a Blu-ray, yes, but it is a 4K transfer, so it just looks perfect. Kind of reminded me of Videodrome, which I didn't like too much either. That's fair. Videodrome, ironically, is another one of those films that I also own the Criterion Blu-ray, and I also really, really like. Although Eraserhead I like much more, but Videodrome I really dig. That's also a film that you'll never fully understand because that's part of the experience. Like the lead character is going down a rabbit hole of what is real. Like their reality is something that they are no longer understanding what's real and what's not. And I think that's something that's fascinating. Um, Also, I think that Cronenberg, I think his fascination with like cult like behavior is something that that film especially depicts in such an interesting way. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on if you do a Cronenberg run, if you watch Crash 1996. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts because that film makes Eraserhead and Videodrome look like they're not weird, like perfectly normal mainstream stuff. So I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on Crash 1996. For the record, 1996, not 2005. 2005 is a lot different of a crash than 1996. It's the only thing that stinks about certain titles have like certain movies having the same title is that's like okay, which one do I watch? All right, literally have a gallon water bottle. Health nut. One of the nice things though about doing late night live streams is that I feel like I get either the late night crowd or the crowd that's on like a completely different time zone, which is like I feel like half my viewership. That's why I post my videos at like strange times, usually like 2, 3 a.m. Eastern time. Sorry about that. Just had to quickly send a text. Well, message, I should say. Yeah, the rest of this month in terms of films and TV shows should be interesting because we have Horizon Chapter 1 and then Quiet Place, the prequel. I think it's called Day One. So that should be interesting. And there's some like indie films too. Um, so it should be an interesting month. But July is going to be like sequel light is coming full swing. Like Despicable Me 4, I think. Then you have Deadpool and Wolverine. So I feel like August might be a good month though. And then of course, September onwards you have Oscar season, so it should be good. Can't articulate. I can't wait for Horizon. Hopefully it's good. Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where when I saw it get a standing ovation at the film festival, I was like, oh, cool. So it's good. But then I saw the Rotten Tomatoes ratings, and I was like, ah, boy, you got to be kidding me. And it's not that I care. Like I love westerns. I'm going to be there no matter what. It could have had a 0% Rotten Tomatoes. Like I want to support, that idea of 4 parts, and it's like having it where it's like one part's coming out, and then a couple months later. Like I like that. And also, we don't get westerns that often. I'm just worried about the reviews because I know that that's going to deter a lot of people from actually seeing it because one, the Western genre is a hard sell to begin with, and then two, I feel like a lot of people when they see low ratings, it's like okay, I'm not going to give it a chance. I'm just going to wait until it's streaming. And I don't know. I feel like the scope of that film alone should be experienced on the big screen. So it is a shame. I know it's a rant, but it is a shame that it's not getting the IMAX treatment or Dolby because I feel like it would really, really shine on those formats. So, but I do agree. I do hope that Horizon's good. And A Quiet Place. I do hope the prequel's good. I don't know what to expect. I really don't in regards to that. Prequels can be very hit or miss, like any movie for sure. But yeah, and honestly, it's one of those things too with Horizon because it's not tracking that well. I don't even know if we're going to get a part 3 and 4. I know we're definitely going to get a part 2 because they already shot it, but part 3 and 4 I don't think they shot yet. So we'll see. Can't articulate. Theater viewing, always the best type of viewing. Oh, I agree because it's like there's no distractions. As long as you have a good audience, there's no distractions. You're not on your phone. It's just you and the screen, full immersion. I love that because there's some films where I'm like, okay, if I didn't experience it on the big screen, my eyes might have wandered elsewhere if I was at home and everything. So I wouldn't have been paying attention as much, and I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. Versus when you see it on the big screen because of you having all that focus, and then if you like the film, you can then come back to it, and it's like, oh wow, like I remember all that I liked about this film. So I agree, the theater experience is the best. It goes theater experience for me, physical media, and then streaming is at the very bottom for me. Don't get me wrong, I have some streaming programs for sure, but it's like a it's like a last resort. But of course, I don't have an endless supply of money, so physical media I save for. Though I'll do a couple of blind buys here and there in terms of like Criterion sales, but for the most part, my rule of thumb is when I'm buying physical media, I have to have seen the film at least once or twice, and then that once or twice it had to be where it was like, oh, it was really really good, or if it's like cheap enough, it's like okay, it doesn't matter if I didn't rate it highly. It's like I just enjoyed it. Like for example, really good example. I saw the A Team at my local record store. I think it was on Blu-ray with a slipcover and everything for $2. The film itself, 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. I still enjoy it, but I picked it up because it's like again I enjoyed it. But if that was like a full price, like $20 Blu-ray, I probably would have picked it up. I would have been like, I enjoyed it, but not enough. But sometimes when it's cheap enough, it's like okay, I'll add it to the collection. But I have a local library, and I'm able to get out a lot of movies from there, and that helps out a lot, which is nice. Like I've saved, I know, thousands of dollars. Curious about other people in the chat, like how they watch movies, because I know that in the era of streaming, that's how most people actually watch movies. But yeah, let me know, guys. Sorry, I was just quickly looking at my phone. Let me know what format in terms of how you view movies and TV shows. Well, TV shows I know is a given. Most people watch it on streaming, but I know sometimes people wait for physical media with that kind of stuff. But movies, I know it's like a shooting gallery in terms of how people watch that kind of stuff. Like I was saying earlier, I finished watching Boogie Nights not too long ago, but less than an hour ago, and it's one of my favorite films of all time. So because of that, I own it on Blu-ray. So highest quality that you can find right now. Although I do suspect down the line that we'll get a 4K with like HDR. I can definitely see that. I would say if I had to guess, 2027 to celebrate like the 30-year anniversary. Again, if I had to guess. Wonder if Ray's on Popcorn with Grant, if he's back. Because he asked what's up, but then I didn't hear back from him. Can't articulate. I know you're commenting, which is cool. Like I said, I know it's usually like 20 or so minutes before people are like, oh, he's live streaming. But I think also I know people look at like thumbnails. I think the thumbnail that I have for this, it's just like my channel background because again I'm using like StreamYard. So I think that might also be it. Yeah, looks like that. Yeah, looks like that's it. That's something I'll have to figure out. I can't articulate. I watch my TV and movies on 100% legal streaming websites. Nice, man. Yeah, honestly, in terms of illegal websites, the and I'm saying the only way that I am willing to do that these days is if like I legit can't find it anywhere else. Like if it's not on, DVDs at my local library, if it's not on streaming services, and I just legit can't find it anywhere except the Seven Seas. That's the only way I will be willing to do that, and that's honestly why with my Academy Award Best Picture rankings that I do, that's why I'm probably not going to go below the 1970s because the 1970s there were a couple of movies that was hard enough to find, and the 1960s I'm like think in my mind I'm like it's going to be even harder because the further back you go with certain movies, it's even harder to find. Like some movies might have even been lost at time if they're not even on, um, illegal websites. So it's just slippery slope. But what's nice is that there are other films though that do have a following and that people do love. So it's like those movies exist that are older. So, but I do agree. I do agree. And what's nice is Criterion and Kino Lore. They do like a lot of preservation of like older films, which is cool. But which out of curiosity, which legal streaming websites do you use? Oops. Can't articulate. I was being sarcastic. I think I'd go broke if I paid to watch some old movies that I like. But I do the usual Netflix. Um, See, I wasn't sure at first, but I didn't see any like emojis or anything, so I was like, "Oh, I think he's being serious." Um, hey, believe me, I get that. 10 years ago, actually, yeah, this time 10 years ago, like I just got out of like high school, so it's like I, I didn't have, I didn't really have any money, so it was like one of those things where I was like, okay, I love movies, but there's certain movies where it's like I can't really find, so it's like yeah, pillaged the seven seas, so to speak. And honestly, that's something I did up until like 2020. And now it's like it's really only like sprinkles here and there in terms of like certain movies that again I just can't find. But my local library helps out a lot. Honestly, if I gave them money for all the amount of money that they saved me, it would be close to 10 grand. No joke. Like it's insane how much I've saved through them. And yeah, physical media is expensive. It can be, at least. It's just I'm frugal, so it's one of those things where it's like I try to be smart in regards to like when I buy them. Like for example, Dune Part Two, I really really liked, but I'm probably gonna wait until it drops to like 15, $20. Like right now, it's 30, 35 on 4K. I'm like, just gonna wait. I can't articulate. Besides Netflix and Hulu, the last streaming service I paid for was HBO Go. That thing is ancient. Oh gosh, yeah, HBO Go. Yeah, I think it was HBO. Then it got changed to I think HBO Go, and then HBO Max, and then now it's just Max, which is really really annoying because I do tags on like Letterboxd. So when I started doing that, I had HBO Max, and I think it was before they changed it to Max. But I'm like, I'm not changing it to Max. And secondly, why would I call it Max when it's like most of the stuff that I watch on there is like HBO related stuff? But Hulu, I do have. Netflix, I technically have, but it's things that it's like use other people's accounts. Um, so it's like the only thing I pay for is technically Prime. Prime I like because they have the what's it called? It, I think I'm using the wrong terminology, but they have director's vision, which basically means that it's made to look like how the director intended, which I think is pretty cool. Like it's, of course, not the greatest physical media, but it's nice that they're at least trying to emulate what the director intended in terms of the look and sound. But Prime I like. Hulu, I'm not a big fan of the actual streaming quality. Like the video quality, I think is not that good. I do think that some of the content they have is good though. And same thing goes with Netflix. Like when I watched The Power of the Dog on Netflix as opposed to the Criterion 4K, it was honestly pretty insane how much better the Criterion 4K was from Netflix's stream, which is crazy to think because it's again a Netflix film. So you would think that on the streaming service it would be really good, but it just goes to show the limitations. End of my rant. Another streaming service I only have for like a week or two, but I would recommend if you like older films and like international films is the Criterion Channel. They have a lot of really good stuff. But I only had that once a while back. Yeah, HBO Go. Sorry, I'm still thinking about that. HBO Go. Can't articulate. July is coming up, so maybe I'll get my first Criterion movie. My local Barnes and Nobles has a very small selection. Yeah, man. Honestly, I would highly recommend you do that. I think trying to think of ones that I would start off with. So let me actually quickly go on Letterboxd to see. I like, of course, I know I follow you, but it's one of those things where I just want to get an idea of like some of the movies that you love, so then that way I can say, okay, in terms of the ones you love, like these are the ones where it's like, hey, that you can tell the difference in terms of the physical media quality. One second. Mhm. So I see Parasite that you loved that one, which I think is great as well. Um, Parasite is a weird one though, in that there is a criterion. I think it's a 4K, and with that you get the regular version, and you also get the black and white version, which is cool. I didn't pick up that one though. I actually picked up the Blu-ray, and then when the 4K came out, the regular 4K, I ended up selling my Blu-ray and bought the 4K. Personally, I would with Parasite, I would get the regular 4K instead of the Criterion one. But I do see Silence of the Lambs. You have that as a 5 out of 5, which I agree. It's an amazing film. That is one of my favorite criterions. That criterion is incredible. You get a booklet. You get, I believe it's 2 discs with a lot of behind the scenes, and then the actual 4K transfer of the Blu-ray is just it's incredible. It's so good that when the actual 4K came out from Kinolore, I saw a comparison video, and the criterion was so great that it was like the person recommended that you just stick with Criterion Blu-ray. So I would definitely say excuse me, I would definitely say Silence of the Lambs, and then let me look real quick. Yeah, Silence of the Lambs is a must buy from Criterion. Let's see. Oh, 12 Angry Men. That's a great one too. That was actually one of my first Criterions. That's a great Blu-ray. And then see some of the other ones. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, I also own on Criterion, and I see that you have that as a 5 out of 5, which good taste, good taste. That's a great film. That one you can actually find pretty cheap. Like July, I think it will go down to like I think you can find it for like 10, $15, believe it or not. So it's on the cheaper side, but it's not because of the quality of the film. Like it's actually a great, great transfer. I just think that it's because it's not as thick as like all the other criterions. It was one of like the first that came out. So I think that's why. Raging Bull, I do see that you have that as a 5 out of 5. That 4K is amazing as well. Like that's a must own. Let me see what else. Passive Glory, that's another one that's really good on Blu-ray. And then Night of the Living Dead, you can buy the Blu-ray or you can buy the 4K of Criterion, but I'll say this: I own the Blu-ray, and because it's a 4K transfer, I'm happy with it. I'm probably not going to upgrade to 4K because the Blu-ray transfer is just that great. So I would definitely recommend that. I can particularly if they had Ingmar Bergman collection there, I would get it. It's funny you mentioned that because that's one I've been playing around getting that for a while because as you know on my channel I do director ranking lists, and Ingmar Bergman's one of the most influential directors ever. So I do want to watch all of his work, but it's one of those things because I've only seen like a handful. I've liked his work, I really have, but I'm like, am I gonna like all 20 plus movies of his though? That's the question. And from my experience with directors, it's very hard to find a director where you watch all of their work and you're like, yeah, that's amazing. Like Kurosawa, it's the same thing. I'm like, I like the work that I've seen of his, but is that possibly because it's his better known work? I don't know. So it's a risky pickup for sure, but I would say go for it. Honestly, I've seen it at my local Barnes and Nobles, and it looks really, really appealing. Same thing with the Wong Kar Wai collection. That's another one where it like looks really good. But yeah, Seventh Seal is one of my favorite films. So definitely. Well, I own that already, but there's a lot of other Bergman films I want to watch. Like Fanny Out and Alexander. I've been putting that off for a decade. I've been wanting to check it out for a while. And then Persona. Persona I've been wanting to rewatch for a long time. But yeah, I definitely want to hear in July. I definitely want to hear what you picked up, especially when I do my because I'll be doing a Criterion Hall video. So once once I do that, I definitely want to hear what you picked up. I can't articulate. I got a lot of 5 out of 5. Most of my movies logged were before I started watching film more critically. 2024, I've changed it though because I've been more critical this year. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. It just means you love films. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, at least you're not one of those individuals where I see some people where it's like they give every movie like a half a star to like one and a half, and it's like if you're giving movies all half a star, one and one and a half, it's like why are you watching movies? It just seems like you don't like movies. Um, versus when you see people where it's like they give 5 out of 5, it just means that they love movies. It's like I get it. Um, I would say for me, my range is usually like it's usually like 3 to 4 stars. And some people might say like, oh, why don't you give higher ratings? And it's really just honestly because sometimes like I think a movie is okay, solid, or goodish, and that it just I need to rewatch it. And honestly, I kind of like when I see a film go up in terms of rating, like it's character development. Um, I'm trying to think of a good example. I would say Taxi Driver is a great example. Like Taxi Driver, I gave I think like a 2 out of 5 when I first saw it. Then I gave it like a 4, and then I gave it a 4.5, and I think now I'm at a 4.75. So it's like a 5 out of 5 knocking on the door for that film. So it happens. I mean, like I said, that's cool. I see all different kinds of ratings from people, which is nice. And it's tough, especially because it's like if you just finished watching a movie and it's like to then just put a rating on it, it can sometimes be tough because sometimes it's like, well, how do I rate this film? Can't articulate. I haven't watched Taxi Driver in like 10 years, and I didn't like it back then. Maybe I'll give it another shot because De Niro's top 5 for me. Oh yeah, so it sounds like you're in a similar position to me then, because yeah, when I actually, I think I watched the Taxi Driver a little over 10 years ago, and yeah, I did not like it. I just I just didn't really understand the character. Like I was like, dude, like I understand that you don't hang out with people. Why would you take someone to a porn theater? Like that's something. It's not really a first date kind of thing, but now I understand that it's like he's someone that doesn't understand people, doesn't understand social cues and everything. So it's like now I get it. Now I understand the character study. But I think I think film and TV shows though is like anything in life, where it's like the more you've seen and the more life experience you have, the more that you can appreciate and understand um, other people in films and TV shows, and that's definitely the case with Travis Bickle. Um, again, not someone I condone, not someone I'm like, yeah. It's more of like someone where I'm like, he needs help, and I wish that he definitely got help. But yeah, it's a great film. Like I do love it, but I can definitely see why you didn't like it at first. And I agree, Robert De Niro is one of my favorite actors as well. I'm curious, have you seen The Deer Hunter? If so, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on that because that one also came out in the '70s. I think it was '78, and he got nominated for Best Actor for that as well. Inarticulate Deer Hunter I watched a few months ago. One of my favorites. The way they go from normal to civilians to becoming possessed by PTSD. Glad you're saying all this because it makes me want to rewatch the film. A little bit of background: I watched it about a decade ago, and I liked it. I especially liked the structure, how it's like the first act, you see them all as this, normal town folks, your everyday man, and then second act, you see all the living hell that they experience, and then the third act, all the PTSD. But for some reason, when I rewatched it a couple years ago on Blu-ray, I wasn't a fan of it. Like it was one of those things I appreciated it, but I just found it to be so dull. Um, and ironically, I was actually trying to sell the Blu-ray recently, but I wasn't able to sell it, at least as of right now. So I actually took it off the market because I'm planning to rewatch it for a third time. So I'm glad you're saying this because it gives me even more push to want to watch it a third time because maybe I just wasn't in the right headspace the second time I watched it. Because everything you're saying, I agree with. I think that it's one of those things where critically it hits all those marks, but just entertainment rewatchability wise, it wasn't something I was like really invested in the second time. If you liked Deer Hunter, there's another film that I watched. That's also a film about being on board, about a vet coming home. That's also 1978 in terms of getting nominated for Best Picture. And that's Coming Home with John Voight. That one I liked as well. Like that one, I think I saw it like a month or two ago, but that one I really liked. I would recommend that one. I think Jane Fonda's in it too. Yeah, I think she's in it as well. But John Voight's really, really good. But I don't know who I would have chosen for best actor, like him or Robert De Niro, because I thought both were really, really good. Also, I just saw Can't Articulate. I'm looking. Halloween Kills. I saw you gave a 5 out of 5. I'm actually curious how you liked Halloween Ends. I want to hear your thoughts on that because I have thoughts on that whole trilogy. But yeah, you've seen a lot. I'll give you that. You've seen a lot. Some of these I've had on my watch list for years, like just looking at the movies you've seen. Like I still haven't seen Wrong Turn. Um, the Crazies, I still haven't seen that. Dumb and Dumber, I do like Dumb and Dumber. Dexter New Blood, yeah, I watched that as well. Um, La La Land, Grand Budapest Hotel, Gone Girl, yeah, those are two of my favorites. Raiders of the Lost Ark, yeah, so you've seen a lot. And The Master, I love The Master. PTA, man. articulate. My opinion on Halloween Ends is that it's a decent film. If you never heard of Michael Myers before, but if you were, my apologies, I misread that before. But if you went in as original fan, it's a spit in the face because Michael was barely there. That's an interesting take. Um, I actually like that take. So for me, it's one of those things where I like seeing that you like those films a lot because that's what I wanted. Like I actually loved the ideas that they presented, especially Halloween Ends, especially is something that I wanted to love. Like I'm not gonna lie, when spoiler alert for those that haven't seen yet, when Jeremy gets trapped in upstairs and he accidentally pushes that kid down that like literally goes over that for me set the stage where I was like, holy cow, like I was invested in him. I was like, this is very fascinating. Like I didn't care that Michael Myers wasn't in it. In fact, I actually found it very refreshing. I was like, this is really cool. Like you can see the wheels turning as to like how he's turning into in some ways Michael Myers and how it's like maybe he is a product of his environment because everyone keeps bothering him and everything. Everyone keeps like pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. Um, I liked that, but at the same time, as much as I liked that, as soon as we see Michael Myers in the sewer, my level of immersion was instantly broken because I was like, "Huh?" Like it was very like, "Huh?" Like why is Michael Myers down here? Like it really didn't make much sense in the context of the story that was being told. And honestly, I wish that it was shaved away. Like I wish that it wasn't a part of it because I think it would have made it more interesting, especially because then the second half they were then trying to make it where it was like, oh, it was always about Michael Myers versus Lars Strode, like in terms of the fight scene at the end. But it's like, I don't know. I think that aspect didn't work, but I wanted to love it. Like that was just if you asked me when that film came out, what film I wanted to love, that was the film that I did because on paper it should be a film I love. And honestly, same with Halloween. It's called Kills. Like that's when I wanted to like, but when they kept saying it ends tonight, it just really got on my nerves. Where I was like, okay, I get it, but it's not going to end because there's going to be a sequel called Halloween Ends, and it's like, so I wanted, like I said, I wanted to love this. Really did. It's like The Exorcist Believer. I wanted to like it, but that director, I'm not a big fan of. I'm really not. If you've seen The Exorcist Believer, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that too. But moral of the story, I'm happy to hear different takes on this. Can't articulate Halloween Kills. I watched it like 4 times. Oh wow, so you really, really liked it. I'm glad to hear that, man. I'm glad that you got enjoyment out of that. Yeah, I think that movie. I think that in terms of the ways that it was subverting expectations, in some ways, I liked. Like, I really enjoyed seeing how it's focusing on like the daughter. It's focusing on like the secondary characters, but I feel like as a middle chapter in the franchise, I wasn't a fan of with what it was trying to do because the ending pretty much was saying, "Hey, he's someone that you're not going to be able to defeat at all. Like it's going to be nearly impossible because an entire crowd literally tries to kill him. Doesn't work." So then to have it where it's like in the third one, it's like, he gets killed by Laurie of all people. It's like, I don't know. Also, I just wasn't a fan of the cinematography. Like there were so many times in Halloween Kills where I couldn't tell what was happening. Where it was like, like shaky camera work, and I was just like, can't articulate anything that says Exorcist for the Father, Priest, Omen, what have you. I always skip because I already know it's going to be bad. That's fair. Have you seen the original The Exorcist though? Out of curiosity, because that I will say, if you haven't, highly recommend that one. That one's amazing. Gets better over time. Again, character development. That one I originally gave a 4 out of 5, and now I have it as a genuine 5 out of 5 star film. But for the most part, I would agree. Can't articulate. Yeah, it was good. Oh, cool. Glad that you saw it. Yeah, I think that if you're not really vibing with the whole Exorcist movies and everything in terms of like Priest Omen, at least you've seen the best one of a lot. So it's like I don't think you're ever going to see a film that's going to top that, in my opinion. It's like Jaws. Remember Jaws? There hasn't been a shark movie that's been able to touch it. Ryan Olacho. Totally good. Exorcist Timeless. Yes. Highly recommended on 4K as well. And the theatrical cut, not the extended cut, or I guess it's the director's cut. That one, actually, that's the one I watched first, and I wasn't vibing with it. The theatrical cut, that's the way to go. I can't articulate. I got a list for horror media to watch before Halloween 2024 ends. Maybe I'll rewatch it. Oh, cool. Yeah, let me know some of the horror media that you have on your list. I'm curious. If you don't have on your list, I would highly recommend you watch The Wailing. It's a South Korean horror film, and it is incredible. It's so many different genres boiled together, but it's first and foremost a horror film. And there is imagery in that film you will never forget. I promise you. It is so good. Go into it knowing as little as possible, though. And I promise you, you will enjoy it. I have a list too, by the way, in terms of like horror films that I'm planning to like watch. Um, the top of the one is not Nosferatu, like the original from I think it's the 1900s. That one I'm planning to watch because I haven't seen it up till now. And then it's going to sound weird, but off the top of my head, Scream 3 I'm planning to watch because again, it's going to sound weird, but I've seen Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 4, 5, and I think there's 6. I've seen all those, but for some reason I just, excuse me, never watched the third one. And I really don't have an answer as to why. I really don't. But and I have some other ones, but I haven't made up the list officially. I just have like those two movies. But I will probably rewatch The Wailing as well. Can't articulate. I'm gonna add that. The list is on my letterbox and the Fall of the House of Usher. I still need to see. Also Hellraiser. Ooh, let me check your letterbox in right now. I think I still have it up. This is what I love about Letterbox. It's right in front of you. I am going to say this about the Fall of the House of Usher. I wasn't a big fan of it, which is a shame because I like the director. But without spoiling anything, it just felt very repetitive after a while. There are a couple interesting kills, so to speak, but I don't know. It's one of those things where it could just be a me thing. That I'll be curious to hear your thoughts though when you watch it. So it looks like you have a lot of my playing against stuff on here. Oculus, I enjoyed that one. Haunting of Bly Manor, I still need to watch. Midnight Mass, I also still need to watch. These are two TV shows that I've had on my Netflix watch list for a while. Bride of Frankenstein, I did see that. That was something I actually saw in one of my film classes. I just checked January of 2015, so over 9 years ago. I think you'll like that one. The Lighthouse is a masterpiece. That is an incredible film. Hellraiser, good film. I like it, although some of the visual effects haven't aged well. The practical effects, they have aged well. Those are amazing. Rosemary's Baby, that's one of my favorite horror films of all time. It is also the film that I try to watch on Mother's Day. When you see it, you'll know what I mean. Invisible Man, I liked that. That one of all the Universal monster movies, that is my favorite. Although the one that you have right next to it is the one that I still haven't seen, Creature from the Black Lagoon, but I'm adding it to my watch list now because I've had it on my radar for a while. The Descent, I liked that. It has a very interesting ending. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that is one of my favorite films of all time. It is a film that I would. It's gonna sound weird, but I would highly recommend you watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre on like a really, really hot summer day, where it's like. Let me explain more. Really hot day. Turn off the air conditioning and watch the movie. It will be a very unpleasant experience for sure, but you will feel as though you're with the characters. I promise you. Poltergeist, I enjoyed enough, but I haven't seen since 2015. Maybe I'll rewatch that though, because it's been over 9 years. In a Violent Nature, oh, I liked in a Violent Nature. I think, actually, I think didn't you see that? I could have sworn I saw a review for it. I liked that one. That one was good. Chopping Mall, I still haven't seen the Fear Street trilogy. That's the Fear Street trilogy is something I wanted to like. I like the concept of having it where it's like a movie comes out each week, but Perfect Blue. I loved Perfect Blue. I one of my friends, shout out to Sergey of Skynet Gen, he actually bought the Blu-ray for me, and the Blu-ray is amazing. Highly recommend Perfect Blue. Um, so good. Uh, can't articulate. I live in a desert. It's hot every day. Oh, so I guess it doesn't help any. But still, I like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre screening would be amazing, like a 4D experience of that. Ryan, I'll let you know. Did you see The Strangers Chapter One? Unfortunately, yeah, unfortunately I did. I didn't like it. It was funny because I spoke to a friend before seeing it, and he told me that he had heard that it was pretty much like a copy and paste of the original The Strangers, and I told him just straight up, I was like, well, I guess it's good that I just don't remember The Strangers because it had been like such a long time since I saw the original. But watching The Strangers Chapter One, it was a weird experience because all those memories of watching The Strangers, the first one, started seeping back into my memory. Like I was like, oh my goodness, like this is it was like deja vu where I was like, wait a minute, I think I've seen this before. And it's like, oh, it's because they're really copying and pasting a lot. They do a lot of the same thing, but then it has an ending that pretty much gives you blue balls. It's pretty much like, hey, this is just set up for the next one, and the next one's probably going to be just set up for the third one. So, um, yeah, I'm curious though, Ryan, if you saw The Stranger Chapter One and if you liked it. For me, I didn't. It's one of the worst of the year so far, for me at least. I can't articulate. Yeah, I saw him and take it off my list. Oh, cool. I'm glad that you saw it. Yeah, I liked that one. That was an interesting film to experience in theaters. I'm glad that I ventured out to see that because that was such a good film. It just felt so fresh. But yeah, I like these lists that you have. I also like seeing your 2024 films. Challengers is also my number one. I loved Challengers. That was such a fantastic film. And also, I like seeing your 2024 list. It looks like the ones that you're most anticipating. The Kinds of Kindness, Megalopolis, Gladiator 2. I'm hoping is good. Fingers crossed. Please be good. Mickey 17. I was so looking forward to that. I was so disappointed when that got taken off the schedule. Um, Nosferatu, I'm also looking forward to, even though I haven't seen the original just yet. But I like the director. And then Horizon, yeah, Part 2. Speak No Evil. I haven't heard of this film. Oh, wait. I have heard of this one. Yeah, I think I saw a little bit of the trailer, but I turned away so that way I wasn't spoiled or anything. Let me add that to my list. Glad I'm seeing this. Ryan Elishell says I didn't like it. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Sounds like yeah. It sounds like we're on the same page then. Um, yeah, I really wasn't a fan of it to be honest. Like, let me check. Let me check my ranking list so far for this year. I'm pretty sure it's in my top 10 worst of the year so far. Um, yeah, yeah, it's in my top 10 worst of the year so far. I have it right now. I think as number 8. It's not good though. It's really not. It's such a shame. I because could have been good. But yeah, that and like Night Swim are like horror films this year that I've seen where I was like, oof. Can't articulate. Fingers crossed for Gladiator 2. Gladiator 1 was 9.2929 out of 5. I love it. Yeah, Gladiator. I love. I really do. It's a film that I can watch any point in time. I think it's got endless rewatchability value. And honestly, I was kind of worried about Gladiator 2, but especially with like Napoleon, how Napoleon was just so average. But I don't know. Paul Mescal seems to be someone that is very choosy with his roles. Like he has only been in a couple films because of that. Like he's done All of Strangers, and he did it's off the tip of my tongue. I can't believe After Sun. He did After Sun as well, and like he was incredible in both of those films. Not only was he incredible in both of those films brought tears in my eyes. So I'm like, is Gladiator 2 going to bring tears in my eyes? Like I'm kind of hoping so. I want it to be good. I don't know what to expect. I just want it to be good. I don't care if there's not as much action. Just I want a really good film. That's all. That's all I ask. And I hope that they don't do something where it's like they bring Russell Crowe back and he's like in a CGI form. That would be just really frustrating. So, yes, fingers crossed. Please be good. The other thing that's frustrating too is with Gladiator too is it's like part of me wants it to be a hit, part of me wants it to be something that audiences love, but then the other part of me is like, okay, if it's a hit, does that mean we're going to get a Gladiator 3, 4, 5? Is there going to be a Gladiator cinematic universe? So I don't know. Can't articulate. He did the miniseries Normal People, which is next after I finished my Game of Thrones House of Dragon rewatch. Oh, nice. I haven't seen Normal People. I've heard of that, but I haven't seen it yet. Um, it's cool that you're doing Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon rewatch because my wife she actually just finished rewatching House of the Dragon. We're getting ready for. I was gonna say for tomorrow, but I just realized it's actually going to be later on today with when House of the Dragon season 2 episode 1 drops. I think it's 9 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll be there for sure because we both like season 1. I just wasn't feeling a rewatch just yet. Game of Thrones though I've rewatched several times. I love that show. I really do. So it sounds like you have really, in terms of TV shows, it sounds like you have really good, like next up on your list in terms of watching. Right now, I'm watching Sons of Anarchy, Veep, and then I'm also thinking about possibly rewatching another show. But at the same time, I'm like, do I really want to? Because House of Dragons coming back, and then on top of that, The Bear is going to be coming back, and then also The Boys I'm watching. So I just don't want to be too overwhelmed in regards to stuff to watch because it's like I'm already going to be having to watch 2 shows week to week, and then the third show binge watch before everyone and their mother's like spoiling The Bear season 3 for me. And I'm excited for The Bear. I think The Bear comes out in 10 days. I want to say. I think it's the 26th. I want to say the 27th. Actually, my mistake. I think it's the 27th of June when The Bear drops. And then The Boys, the episode drops on Thursdays, I believe. I think it's like 3 a.m. Eastern time, which is kind of crazy, but it is what it is. But yeah, I want to know what everyone else is watching. Also, meant to say it. Usually I do it at the beginning of the video, but I'm making a point to actually have it where it's towards the end or at least the middle when I'm doing live stream, just as letting you guys know with what's coming out next on my channel. So I'm going to do that now. So I have pulled up videos that are private right now, but I want to give you guys the schedule so that way you know what to expect. I'll say June and July as of right now, as the filming of this video. So my next video that's coming out is in 6 days, June 22nd, and it's top 10 streaming movies I want on physical media. That one I do have a premiere date, 2 p.m. on that date, and I'm excited for that to drop. I really am. And then also June 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I'm releasing a video that I've never done before, but I wanted to do, and that is Birdman versus Boyhood 10 years later, which is better. That was a video that was a lot of fun to do. I'm very curious to see how that does in terms of, reception wise. A Ghost Story, I did a review on that. That will be coming out July 6th. And then for the rest of July, I have a couple more videos. Rob Zombie movies ranked worst to best. That will be coming out July 13th. And then 2023 Academy Award Best Picture nominees, that will be July 20th, that ranking list. And then July top 10 movies I want on Blu-ray will be July 26th. And then I will also be planning to do a top 10 movies I want on 4K. I am going to be collaborating with someone. I won't say who just yet, but I am going to be collaborating with someone to do that video, which is awesome. So yeah, just wanted to give a quick rundown. Now I'll answer some of the comments. Can't articulate. Yeah, I've been on my HBO run since the beginning of 2023. Westworld is the last finished HBO series I'm going to watch. Then I'll take a hiatus on HBO. I love Westworld. That's a great show. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on it, because like I said, I really dug that show. I think it's very, and I think I can say now, I think it's very underappreciated. Ryan, how much are you excited for Deadpool and Wolverine? Question mark. Because I am. So I am and I'm not. I'm excited. It's not an easy answer. I'll say this. Mildly, yes. I'm excited because it's going to be curious to see I'm curious to see all these little fan service moments, all these characters that are going to be on screen, possibly for the first time together, or in some cases on the screen together for the first time in like 20 years. I'm curious to see if they're going to be blending like certain. I haven't seen any trailers or anything, so I'm curious if they're going to be blending like different X-Men characters from like the prequels and the original trilogy. So I'm curious about all of that, and I think that it will be fun in terms of the banner between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. But here's the thing: Sean Levy as a director is just very average. He is a yes man director. He is competent. He gets the job done, but there's nothing really memorable about his directing. It's not a slight on him. It's just, I get it. He's a director for hire. At least it seems that way. So I don't know. To an extent, I'm excited, but that aspect does have me worried. And I'm also wondering if it's going to be like the newest Spider-Man, not Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, not the animated ones, the live action. I'm wondering if it's going to be like that, where if you don't watch it with a crowd, or if you watch it with a crowd, that's what makes the experience. So I don't know. I'd say overall mildly, yes, I'm excited. Like, I do have my ticket already because I know that you had to get it ahead of time, and otherwise you probably wouldn't see it for a long time. So like I do have my ticket. So mildly, to answer your question, like I said, I knew it was going to be long-winded in terms of my answer, but to answer your question, yes, mildly. Can't articulate. Boyhood was better. Gonna plead the fifth for now. All I'm gonna say is I do love both films, but my thoughts have changed on both films over the last decade. Which honestly is kind of funny, because that's why I love doing these like ranking videos, like, top 10 lists, top 250 films, top 100 films, because it's like you can look back and see like how much you've changed as a viewer. Um, I don't know. I love that personally, like all of that. And sometimes things stay the same, but I'm glad that you like Boyhood though, because I do think it is a great film. I rewatched it not too long ago, and it definitely holds up. Which is funny though, because I remember when that film came out, there was like such a backlash. Like all the critics were loving it, and then so audiences were like, "It's not that good," and I was like, "I think it's pretty good." It's just that if you go into a movie expecting it to be the best movie ever, you're going to be disappointed. If you just go in expecting a good movie, you might be moved. That's how I look at it. Why set yourself up for failure? That's what I always look at. The Rob Zombie ranking video, though, on a side note, that one I'm terrified actually because Rob Zombie fans I know can be kind of, you know, unhinged from what I understand. So when that video drops, like I don't exactly love his films, so it's going to be very interesting to see the reception of that video. But what an interesting director. Another comment. Hey, Alex Clinton is in the chat. Alex Clinton asks, "Are you planning to do Coppola's film ranking?" Yes. I forget if you're following me on Letterboxd or not, Alex, but I currently am working my way through his filmography. I can actually let me pull up my Letterboxd. I can give you the exact number of films I've seen of his. So I've seen 15 out of his 22 films, and by 22 films, I mean that films that he directed, no TV movies, no music videos, none of that, just specifically feature length films. So I've seen 15 of them. Of those 15, two of them I am planning to rewatch, which is The Outsiders and The Rainmaker, because I don't think it's fair to rank those just yet because I don't know where to put them. I really don't because I haven't seen them in over a decade. So, but yeah, I am working my way through his work. I have seven more, I believe it is. And of those seven, three of them are going to be hard to find. Like One for the Heart, I don't know where to find that. But hey, everyone's coming in the chat. Andrew Lay says hello. Andrew, hello. It's good to see you. Tyler Van. Hey, Tyler. Hi. It's been a while. Yeah, I know. I follow you on Letterboxd. I remember you. You have some really good reviews. Ryan Olachow, do you have a favorite David Lynch film? Yes. I know it's going to be pretty basic to say, but I have Mulholland Drive as my favorite. That being said, I do also love Eraserhead. I also actually Eraserhead's really climbed up the ranks. Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, Inland Empire. Inland Empire, I've surprisingly really loved. Like when I watched it the second time not too long ago, I really fell in love with it. It went from a solid film to I love this. And then Lost Highway, I really like too. Lost Highway is like the blueprint of what David Lynch would later perfect with Mulholland Drive. But those are like the films that he's done where I'm like, yes. And then Twin Peaks, I'm a huge fan of Twin Peaks, especially The Return. Can't articulate. I still haven't seen Apocalypse Now. You gotta watch Apocalypse Now, man. It's so good. It's so good. I love Apocalypse Now. That's one that I can watch any point in time, and that's one also going back to what we were talking about earlier. Can't articulate. talk about character development, that was a film that 10 years ago I had as a 4 to 5. Now I have it as a 5 to 5. It's masterpiece. But if you watch it, only watch the theatrical cut. Do not watch the final cut. Do not watch the redux. Stick with the actual cut, please. Andrew Lay asks, just wondering how often do you edit your Letterboxd top 4? I really don't, to be honest. Actually, that's a lot. I only do it when I do like a redux version of a top 100 list or a top 10 list. So the last time I did that was, what was it, 2021, I think. So because I haven't felt the need to re-edit like my top 25 films or top 100 films of all time, I just have kept it that way. And honestly, I do like my top 4. It's pretty much like solidified. Although realistically my top 3 is solidified, where it's like it just changes the order. Like some days it's like, yeah, Mulholland Drive is my favorite film of all time. Some days it's There Will Be Blood is my favorite film of all time. And then other times it's like, no, American Beauty is still my favorite of all time. It just depends on my mood. If you were to ask me today, I would say probably Mulholland Drive. But what's your structure in regards to Andrew, like with how often you edit your top 4? I'm curious because I do see sometimes people literally will change it as like, hey, I do it once a week or once a month. So I'm curious. Can't articulate. Dang, I still need to see Twin Peaks. I only watched the first episode like 10 years ago. Yeah, no, the first episode, I think it's like 90 minutes. It's pretty much a feature-length film. I would say with Twin Peaks, watch the full thing, but just know that there is such a dip in quality from season 1 to 2, and that's because there was so much network interference. Like I think it was CBS. They got so involved with season 2, and they had it where it was like, hey, we want you to answer the question, who killed Laura Palmer? So David Lynch was like, screw you, and he just kind of bailed. And they answered it within like the first, I think it was like 6 episodes of season 2. And then they changed directors, like multiple directors, then did season 2. So you can tell the episodes that Lynch directed as opposed to the ones that other directors were trying to emulate his style. So season 2, the first couple episodes I liked, and then the last episode I liked, but everything in the middle is like, Twin Peaks: The Return, incredible. Some of the best TV you'll ever see. It is surrealism of the highest order. If you didn't like Eraserhead, though, which I know you said that you didn't, there's going to be some episodes that you might not like because it's a lot closer to like Eraserhead as opposed to, trying to think, Blue Velvet. It's a lot similar to that, I would say. But yeah, I'm curious how you like it. Alex Glinken says, I follow on Letterboxd. I like your review of Chaplin's films. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Actually, I have let me pull out my phone so I can give you the date. I have my Charlie Chaplin films ranking list. I have it already ranked, filmed it, edited it, and it's going to be I'm actually really excited to release it, like the ranking video, because I changed the frame rate. I added grain, made it black and white and everything, made it 4:3, so that way it feels like a silent film. And I don't talk in it. Like I have it where it's like I have the motions where I'm like, oh, like number 6, like 5, but you don't actually hear me. It's actually like a silent video. But you're not going to see that video. I hate seeing this. You're not going to see the video though until October of 2025. And that's just because I'm so far ahead of all my ranking lists. So, but look forward to that for a year and 4 months from now. Andrew Lay, I've been revising mine for the last 6 months. I think I'm pretty happy with them now. What they currently look like: The Last Samurai, The Martian, Zodiac, and Phantom Thread. I own all 4 of those films, so I really like those choices. Last Samurai I really, really like. I think it's a film that showcases a lot of Tom Cruise's abilities as an actor that we don't see too often of. The Martian's a lot of fun. I think it's one of Ridley Scott's best. Zodiac is a film that somehow went under the radar in 2007. Box office failure. Didn't get any Oscar nominations, both of which are a shame because it should have been a hit and it should have gotten a bunch of Oscar nominations. I love Zodiac. And Phantom Thread is really, really good. It's Daniel Day Lewis' last film, and that's a shame because I love Daniel Day Lewis. Can't articulate says good top four at Andrew Lay. Agreed. Let's see. Tyler Van, do you like the director Mark Forster? He's more of a journeyman, but I think he's really underrated. No one ever talks about him. So, Mark Forster, I feel very mixed about. I think that a journeyman is a very good way of putting it. I think that his movies, there really isn't anything that directorial wise, there's nothing really that stands out. But I enjoy his films like enough. Like I think that what's it called? I think that World War Z is like a fun time. I think that that movie, unfortunately, there was like studio meddling and everything. So it's like I understand that was probably a bad example, but there was another film of his where I saw where I was like, it was fine. Quantum of Solace, that's another one. I feel like they were studio interference plus writer strike. Stranger Than Fiction, I do like. I do think that that one is good. And then Christopher Robin was enjoyable. Monsters Ball, I wanted to like it. I think it's very well acted, but I thought it was just all right. And then Finding Neverland, Kate Winslet's one of my favorite actresses, but I thought was just all right. And then A Man Called Otto, I haven't seen yet, surprisingly. And then Kite Runner, I've had on my list for a long time. Stay, I've also had on my list for a long time. So I still need to watch some of his other films. Maybe, honestly, looking at it, it looks like there's only a couple more of his films that I haven't seen. So maybe I will rank them. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I do the director ranking list, because there's a lot of times where I'll watch a director's work and I'm just like, not many people are talking about him. Let me put this video out there. Maybe people will then find more of their movies. Andrew Lay, thanks. Last Samurai's never left the number one spot in my life ever. Oh, I love hearing that, man. That's fair, honestly. It's a great film. It was actually one of the first R-rated films that I ever saw. So it will always have like a special place in my heart. Because I remember at first like watching it when I watched one of my first R-rated films, Last Samurai, I was like, it's not that violent. And then in like the third act, I was like, oh wow, yeah, there's a lot of heads getting cut off and everything. I was like, oh wow. But it's such a meditative film. Like it's beautiful. Not even just the visuals, but like Hans Zimmer's score is so good. I've listened to that score on its own so many times. So, and also one thing that annoys me though is that it's not the film. I hate when people are like, "Oh, it's what's the term?" I'm trying to find the right word because it's late, so I'm trying to find the right word. Not whitewashing. There's some people mold The Last Samurai with a lot of other white savior. That's the word. Like I understand that something like The Blind Side is like a white savior movie, but The Last Samurai, I really don't get that vibe at all. I think that it's a very, very sturdy film, and honestly, it showcases Japanese like perspective very interesting and with a lot of nuance. So I like that film. I need to rewatch it. It's been, I think, 4 years. So a little too long, but I really liked it. I'm glad to hear that that's your number one. Also, let me make sure, Alex. I know, Andrew, I know I'm following you on Letterboxd. Let me make sure, Alex, that I'm following you. Yeah, I see I'm following you, Andrew. Am I following Alex? Let me see. Sorry, Alex, 1 second. Let me just look. I'm not seeing anything. Well, then maybe you have a different username. That could be why. Because I know some people have different YouTube names. YouTube names from like Letterboxd names. Not me, but that's just the reason why I have the the same picture for Letterboxd and for YouTube, is just so that way people can find me a lot easier. So that way it's not like, wait a minute, this is the same person. It's like, yeah, same person that's doing this. On a side note, I do hope The Last Samurai gets a 4K release. That'd be really cool. Also, Tyler and Andrew, I know. Oh, Alex just asked. Sorry, 1 second. Pull up. Alex Lincoln says, "Are you planning to do a list of top 10 courtroom films?" Yes. So I do actually have a list. I have just to give you guys some perspective. Um, I do listen to your guys' requests. It's just one of those things where having all these different lists, it can be kind of overwhelming. Like I have 296 lists on Letterboxd. But yes, one of the lists is top 10 courtroom films. And I do want to release it, but before doing that, I want to rewatch Witness from the Prosecution and Judgment at Nuremberg, which ironically I just bought both of them, excuse me, from Kino Lord, the Blu-rays. So I think once I rewatch those, I'll feel confident to, you know, finalize the ranking, film it, edit it, and then upload it. But yes, I love courtroom films. I think courtroom films can be really effective. Andrew Lay, I attended a Japanese cultural class in college, and the professor wouldn't let The Last Samurai be screened as it's not historically accurate. But my Japanese friends were like, but it's good. It's funny because I've actually heard the opposite. Like, in terms of like realism, like I know, I forget the actor's name from Shogun, but one of the lead actor from Shogun, I know he was in the film, and I know that he really praised like The Last Samurai because they were going to be doing certain things that weren't historically accurate or weren't part of the customs, and they were open though to hearing him out, and not only hearing him out but also changing things so that way it was accurate. So I don't know, I mean, the professor could be right, but I also wonder if the professor had seen the film. I'm curious about that. Tyler Grant. I've never seen that one, but I know it does that same story template as movies like Avatar and Ferngully, right? So I haven't seen Ferngully, but in terms of Avatar, I know The Last Samurai came out beforehand, but I would say they're kind of similar, but at the same time, like as much as I enjoy Avatar, like I have it, I think it's like a 3.5 out of 5. The Last Samurai, that was just like it's such an enriching experience because it's more about the culture. Like, yeah, there's a quote unquote romance, but it's not really like the focal point. The focal point is learning Japanese culture. And I don't know, as an American who didn't really learn that much about it in, growing up in terms of middle school and high school, it was like interesting, like giving a little bit of insight into that culture and like all the little things that go on, and then also reading up on it, it's even more interesting. I would give it a shot personally. Um, as you can see, Andrew really, really liked it. I really liked it. I don't know. I don't think it gets talked about enough anymore. Alex Lincoln. I just watched To Kill a Mockingbird last night, and I loved it a lot. That's such a good film. I own that on 4K physical media, and it's such a good film. It's aged really, really well. And Atticus Finch, talk about a great dad, like just someone that is able to articulate so well with kids and adults, and just hearing his perspective is just it's fascinating. It's also really interesting too because it's a courtroom film, but there really isn't much courtroom stuff. So it's like when there is courtroom related stuff, it's all the more impactful. But I'm glad that you loved it a lot, because I do agree. Question: have you seen like Judgment at Nuremberg and like Witness from the Prosecution, or Anatomy of a Murder? I almost said Anatomy of a Fall, Anatomy of a Murder, 12 Angry Men, like stuff like that. Tyler Van, yeah, Avatar 1 and 2, I think are just okay, a little overrated. That's fair. Honestly, I think that for me, I think they're both rated finely. Like, I think both films, it's kind of well known that at this point that they're not the greatest films of all time, but they are some of the greatest theater experiences, in my opinion. Like, I unfortunately missed out on Avatar in theaters like back in 2009, but it got re-released before Avatar 2. So I watched the first Avatar in theaters and I was like, holy cow, like seeing those two films in theaters in 3D was just like an immersive experience. But at the same time, watching it as a critic, I'm watching it and I'm like, I'm enjoying it. It's a very enjoyable experience. But both are flawed. No question about it. Like they are two films where it's like there's so many issues I have with them. Like I really didn't like how in Avatar 2, not gonna spoil anything, but there's a character at the end that somehow, some way survives. Like that character somehow survived in the first one, and now even more so in the second one. It's like he survived again. It's so frustrating. Like I didn't like that aspect. Andrew Lay, yeah, I'm just sad the last Samurai came out the same year as Return of the King and just got squashed, as did every film. I mean, films like Lost in Translation only got one Oscar. Mystic River got two. So yeah, it was pretty much 2003. It was the year of Return of the King. If you came out that year, you weren't going to get anything. You'd be happy with nominations. Alex Lincoln says Witness for the Prosecution is a masterpiece, in my opinion, one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, I've only seen it once, which was back in 2013, and I remember loving it. That's actually why I decided to pick up the Kino or Blu-ray, because of me remembering how much I loved it. So I'm hoping that I love it just as much the second time around. I think it's so good. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm glad to hear that you loved it because it makes me even more excited to rewatch it. Inherent the Wind is also another really good one. That one I saw last year. That was a really good courtroom film. Can't articulate. Return of the King was super long. I watched it last week for the re-release. Probably the longest movie I've ever seen. 4 hours, 13 minutes, I think. Yeah, I meant to. Can't articulate. I don't think I commented on your Letterboxd review, but I think mentally I commented, but I don't think I actually wrote it out. That was the first mistake. This is going to be a hot take for the Lord of the Rings community, but I wouldn't watch the extended cuts, especially if it's your first time. The extended cuts they're more like if you are a hardcore fan. I'm not a hardcore fan. I really like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but if you asked me right now, how many times have I seen the extended cuts? The answer would be once. And that was like over a decade ago. I'm not a big fan of like the extended cuts. I prefer the theatrical cuts. The theatrical cuts are the ones that got a bunch of nominations for Oscars, a bunch of wins for Oscars. Those are the ones, they are great. I would stick with watching the theatrical cuts of Lord of the Rings. Like there's so much added information where it's like if you're a fan of J.R.R. Tolkien, it's like, okay, I understand why this is in here, but in terms of like if you're watching it as a film, there's a lot of fat in the extended cuts, in my opinion. But the theatrical cuts, they are excellent. So just food for thought. Just saying that. Let's see. Alex Glinken, Judgment Nuremberg is great as well. I think Montgomery Clift should have won Academy Awards for his role. Yeah, I remember him being great in that as well. And yeah, that one I remember just really being interesting in terms of like from a moral standpoint. So I'm hoping that I get that experience a second time. I do remember it being long, like feeling long, but I'm also at the same time I'm like that was 11 years ago, so I'm sure that won't be the case now. But I'm glad to hear that you've seen that and that you loved that as well. That was such a good film. Stanley Kramer is such a good director. Like it's a mad world. That's one of my favorite comedies. I really like that one. Can't articulate. Yeah, I understand that now because I would love to see an extended cut of the Batman, even though the original is already 3 hours long. Yeah, like if you ever decide to rewatch the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I would just don't listen to the fans. Don't watch the extended cuts because yeah, it will feel like super long. Watch the theatrical cuts. I promise you that you will enjoy yourself much more. There isn't like the third Lord of the Rings is so fast paced in terms of the theatrical cut that you'll have some downtime early on, but for the most part, it's like you're following so many different people and they're going through so many different actions that were already established in the second entry that it's like it's all the more impactful. So I would recommend watching theatrical cuts. And the Batman, it's interesting you say that because I think the Batman, I think it's 10 minutes too long. I think that it should have ended when let me backtrack. I think the Batman should have ended probably 5 minutes beforehand. I think that seeing the Joker at the end was unnecessary. Seeing um, Catwoman and Batman go off in separate directions was just unnecessary. I think when the water supply, when he saved everyone and like I think that was great. And I think if it ended shortly after his narration, it would have been a great film. Instead, it's like really good, but I still really like it though. Andrew Lay loved the Batman so much. It being snubbed for best score in cinematography infuriated me. I thought it didn't get a cinematography nomination. Let me see. I could have sworn it got a cinematography nomination. Let me see, because if not, yeah, I'll be kind of frustrated too. Oh, yeah, you're right. Visual effects, yeah. Best sound, yeah. Best makeup and hairstyle. Yeah, best cinematography. Let me check what got nominated for best cinematography that year. Because yeah, that is so in terms of the score, I love the score of the Batman. I've listened to it many times, but I do understand why it didn't get nominated, and that's because a lot of the composers that you know vote on what gets nominated. I think that they just looked at a lot of the same motifs are utilized in that score, so I think that that's probably why they were like, we're not going to nominate it." But that being said, I would have nominated it probably. But that's why I started this year doing a my own like award ceremony, like for myself. It might sound pretentious, but I'm just like, it'd be kind of fun to see like the differences between me and the Academy. But all right, I'm pulling it up right now. So the nominees for Best Cinematography of 2022 were All Quiet on the Western Front, Bardo, False Chronicles of a Handful of Truths, Elvis, Empire of Light, and Tar. Personally, I would have nominated Tar. Yes, that's fine. I probably would have switched out instead of Elvis. I would have switched out maybe Top Gun. I think that was like I thought Top Gun Maverick actually pretty good cinematography. And then I would have switched out Bardo. Oh no, not Bardo. All Quiet on the Western Front, which ironically won. Probably would have switched that out for the Batman. I still can't believe that won best cinematography. Andrew Lay. Even Roger Deakins was annoyed by that snub during an interview once. Really? That's interesting. It doesn't surprise me though, because the Batman, like, it's very precise, especially seeing it like in theaters and 4K physical media. Like, there's so many nuances about that film, and it being shot digitally. Like, there's so many times where I've been on record as saying that there's so many films where it's like they're digitally shot and they look really murky. But this wasn't one of those films. It was one of those films where it was like there was so much precision put into it that's like you can't help but really appreciate what was put into it. And it really matches the tone and mood that the director was going for. So yeah, I love the Batman. I'm hoping the second one's just as good, if not better. Deakins, though, I'm gonna say this. I do wish that Roger Deakins was shooting like on film, but he stopped. I think it was what was I think True Grit was his last film that he shot on film. And that's a shame because I like True Grit's a great film. I love that film. And the film looks amazing, but it's like his digitally shot films, they look good, but I don't know. Like I think that a film like Empire of Light, that's a film that should have been shot on film. I feel like, especially because it's trying to showcase how much love there is for movies and the theater experience. Andrew Lynn, can't wait for the second one. I'm not even a superhero guy. Yeah, same here. I think in terms of superhero movies, the ones I'm excited for would be Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, and that's just because like I love the second one. I thought that was a breath of fresh air, and then the Batman 2, I'll definitely say I am excited. And I'm trying to think if there's any other superhero movies I'm excited for. Well, actually, recently I found out that there's a Watchmen animated movies. I think there's part one and two coming out, and I'm kind of curious to see how that would be in terms of animated. So maybe those as well. But I can't articulate Joker 2. Yeah, Joker 2. If you had asked me months ago if I was excited for Joker 2, I would say like I'm pumped out of my mind that it's like the hype is so real because a superhero musical, that's something you don't really see too often, if at all. But then I saw the trailer and it just seemed like it was all callbacks to the first one. So I'm still excited, but I'm not like as excited as I was several months ago. But I'm keeping an open mind. I'm curious to see what they're gonna do with it. I'm just worried because Todd Phillips doesn't exactly have a good track record in terms of sequels, which I know I've said before, but it's true. I mean, look at Hangover Part 2 and 3. Like Part 2, watching the trailer for Joker 2 is me having deja vu flashbacks of Hangover 2, where it's like you watch the Hangover Part 2 and it's like they changed the setting, yes, but everything else is pretty much a retread of what we experienced. So I'm just hoping that because Joaquin Phoenix is involved, that that's not the case and that it's just one of those things where the trailer's showing those moments so that way audiences are like, oh, I'm not a fan of musicals, but I'll still check this out. I'm hoping that's the reason. But either way, I'll keep it an open mind. October, I'll definitely be seeing it in theaters. I love Joaquin Phoenix. He's one of my favorite actors, so I'll watch it for sure. Also, can't articulate. I forgot to mention. I love your profile, Doctor Manhattan. Watchmen. Watchmen, the film is I think my second favorite superhero film of all time, and the TV show is probably my favorite superhero show, no question. It's a very fascinating world. Can't articulate. Yeah, thanks. I think I'll keep it, especially since it's so noticeable. Yeah, man. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, also, just realized I missed Alex. My bad. Alex Lincoln, It's a Mad, Mad World is fantastic. Yes, it's so good. I also think that it's so cool to see a comedy film that was shot on like I think it was 65 millimeter. It's insane. Like that film looks so good. It's like I'll never forget in high school I would criticize like oftentimes like comedies not having any interest in terms of cinematography, and they would say, "Well, it's a comedy. You're not supposed to pay attention to it." And it's like, comedy is just like any other genre. You look at the filmmaking, like it doesn't get a pass just because they're trying to pass jokes. It's like saying an action film that the cinematography doesn't matter because it's just about the action. It's like no, it is embedded in it. So my rant is basically saying that watching It's a Mad Mad World, having so much emphasis on the cinematography was just amazing. I loved seeing that film. I own that on Criterion. I'm so happy. Andrew Lay. I just watched the whole Dark Knight trilogy for the first time last week, and I thought they were just fine. I low key prefer Dark Knight Rises over Dark Knight. Sorry, Heath. Yeah, that's fair. I have some people close to me that would agree with you. For me, I think it goes The Dark Knight. That's actually my favorite superhero film, easily. I don't think that's ever going to change. Dark Knight, Batman Begins, I believe, and then Dark Knight Rises. Although entertainment wise, I think it might go Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises, and then Batman Begins. But I love all three. I do. Like in terms of superhero films, it's like those three films, Watchmen, and then Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse really set the bar high for me recently. Like that genuinely surprised me because I went into that film nervous, but that film I loved, and I'm not even like I grew up watching Spider-Man and everything, but like there haven't been any Spider-Man films besides these last two animated films that really have like blown me away. Which I know Spider-Man 2, which came out in 2004. I know that one like people are like, "Oh, it's the greatest Spider-Man film ever." I've always thought it was solid. I thought it was solid when I was younger. I think it's solid now. Alex Glinken. Have you seen The Defiant Ones? Another great Kramer film. I actually don't think so. Um, Let me see if it's on my watch list, though. If not, I'll add it right now. I know one that people don't talk about enough by Stanley Kramer is I Guess She's Coming to Dinner. That one I've seen. That one actually stuck with me. In fact, when I watched Get Out for the first time in 2017, I remember that film came to mind where I was like, oh, this is kind of similar, like in a good way, where I was like, this is interesting. All right, the Defiant Ones I haven't seen, but I will add it to my I'll add it to my watch list right now. Oh, he hasn't. Huh. That's interesting. I thought he did a lot more films. Stanley Kramer, that is. Maybe I'll rank his films if he hasn't done like that many. Maybe I'll watch his film, like all of his films, because I've already seen three, four. Yeah, I've already seen four of his films, and I really like all four. I Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is his quote unquote weakest, but I really like that one. All right, guys. Any last minute questions? So I figure right now it's 1:49 a.m. So what I'll do is live stream. I'll end it at 1:55 a.m. So like in 5 minutes. So if there's any other questions you guys have, feel free to ask away. All right, cool. There's a couple more. Alex Lincoln. I also want to watch Ship of Fools by Kramer. I read the book and loved it a lot. I'm gonna add that to my watch list too. I also might. I'm glad that you bring this to my attention. I might actually try to rank his work too, because it seems like he hasn't done that much, which will make it easier to possibly track down some of his other stuff. It's not like Hitchcock where he did like 60 movies, so it's going to be hard to find. Him, it seems like it'll be noticeable. I mean, easier. Andrew Lay. Oh, this is interesting. I'm excited for this. In July, don't know if anyone else picked this up, but I noticed how Nolan's filmmaking improved a lot after The Dark Knight. The sound, the visuals, editing, etc. of his films from Inception onwards feels very similar. So there's a YouTuber out there who, by the way, I would highly recommend. His name is Patrick Williams. He's really good. Actually, I was watching one of his videos earlier today. He's one of those individuals that I can just watch any of his videos, and I'm always intrigued with how he presents stuff. But he actually tackled Christopher Nolan, and he put it best. The reason why his filmmaking changed so much was because he went from shooting on just regular 35 millimeter to he then started shooting on IMAX. So when you're shooting on IMAX, how I have the screen right now, just like full screen, you have so much room to work with, as opposed to the way he was shooting before, widescreen format and everything. Everything was like smushed in, so it's like everything felt very almost like claustrophobic. Like Memento is my favorite of his, but even something like that, it doesn't feel as like open as his later work, because when he started shooting on IMAX, that's why you started getting that like epic feel. Like I would argue Oppenheimer would be a lot different of a film if he made it 20 years ago, because yeah, he would probably do the same black and white color technique similar to Memento, but it might have like that Memento look or Prestige look where it's like he's you know more so focused on close-ups and everything as opposed to these wide angle grandiose shots. So nice pickup there, Andrew. I do agree with you. It's something you can definitely see. Even how he choreographs action scenes. Like if you look at again, I love Batman Begins, but if you look at the action scenes in Batman Begins as opposed to The Dark Knight, there's such a huge upgrade in quality. It's not even funny how much of an upgrade. And then Dark Knight Rises, I like the action more in The Dark Knight, but Dark Knight Rises, when there is like when the action occurs, it's like you get all these big grandiose shots, like the football stadium scene. I mean, that was wild. That like he really just showed it all off. It was amazing. So I agree with you. I'm glad that you pointed that out. It's a good pickup. Alex Lincoln says, "Guys, just coming to dinner is good as well. I thought Spencer Tracy was great in it." Yeah, I agree. That was just like such a good film. I still remember when I saw it like 10 plus years ago. I saw it with my parents, and I don't know, it was just such a good experience. Like, just brought about a lot of interesting discussion. I need to rewatch though. I've only seen it that one time, but I remember it fondly. He's just such a good director, man. He really is. All right. Any last, final questions? I know I'm going to try to make this a weekly thing, just so that way, we can interact more so, especially now that I'm learning how to use StreamYard and I can actually show the comments. Like, I think it's a good idea to do more streams like this. Um, Andrew Lay. I also thought the Dark Knight trilogy was incredibly hilarious. Is it because no one adopted comics too close to the source, or was he just trolling? Um, hilarious. Uh, You mean like the banner between like Lucius and like Bruce Wayne, or I'm curious with what you mean, because I know that there's some humor sprinkled throughout like the Dark Knight trilogy, but I don't know. I don't really think about the humor too often in regards to that trilogy. But that's interesting. Can't articulate. Looking forward to read your reviews on Letterboxd, Chad. See you next time. Yeah, man. You know me. I'll keep reading your reviews. Same with Alex and Andrew. Although I think it's Alex. I don't know if I'm following you on Letterboxd, but If not, just hit me up and just say, hey, this is Chad. But all right, guys, I'm gonna get going. I just wanted to say to everyone that was in the chat, I really appreciate you guys chiming in. It's really good talking to you guys. Happy to have you guys as subscribers and just having this interactive feature. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Good Father's Day, and I will see you next week.